They say an emperor once slept around these stones. They say he stepped on down from out his throne, trekked the grounds way out from Rome to check how these founds were mounted and formed. I guess the drowned out mix of 1,000 horns bounced around these bricks and wowed his bones when Hadrian strolled around his wall of wonder. Built in the cold with the gold from his plunder, too tall to ascend or deep to crawl under. Thousands of hands, both old and younger, pounded these lands like rolling thunder until, through all of their hurt and their toil of carving these hills of dirty soil, they finished their work for his worthy royal and swore then no men on earth would spoil their northern home, their rainy, frozen, small portion of Rome where oak trees and willows are woven and sewn to the landscape. Though now, all that's left are their corroded stones behind handrails. You see, the Romans' grand scale plan failed, but this northern land didn't stand still. We waved and turned our backs to the Romans, which gave way to the Anglo-Saxons and the Normans. Now, the Normans, they knew what this place was worth. Me and you know it's the best place to grace the earth, but they gasped at our delightful, scenic visions and classed us as a vital, strategic position. So, in defense of any savaging, quick, sudden battles, an offensive so damaging that they just couldn't handle, they constructed a fort so that folk wouldn't hassle them in the shape of a moat and a large wooden castle. Then they lived around its walls and they made it their home, used its grounds to grow and to lay down their bones, but the old wooden beams became frayed and worn, so 90 years on, it was upgraded to stone. And so from then, our name was bestowed. Newcastle Upon Tyne is how we became known, a term that was spread down the lanes and the roads and gave birth to this legend no rains could corrode. Now let us springboard 600 years later to the years of King George and his fair share of haters. To the north were the Jacobites who wouldn't spare any strangers and had an appetite for our throne, so did swear they would take us. But we did not weep like some scared spectators. Our strong castle keep was prepared for invaders, and the parasites they called Jacobites, well, they weren't aware of the danger. Before we stood up to them square and bled back, we were braver. Yes, we did our part to save the throne, and King Georgie boy, after staring at failure, gave thanks to Newcastle and declared us his saviour. So for helping our king keep a hold of his charms, we earned those 3 words in our coat of arms: fortiter, defendant, triumphans. On our shirts and in our hearts they're engraved and entrenched. The words are triumphing by a brave defence, so hence that's why since the 1740s, for our loyalty to George, we've been known as the Geordies. Yes, Geordies was the term that stuck. And we adored the Northeast like worms in muck, minus the germs and stuff. But that name burned in us. Now, we'll carry that flame until we've turned to dust, for in the 1700s, our fame was just local. But with the vision of a handful, we took our name global, no more so than Granger with Dobson Design. The partnership which made Newcastle's rotten divine. It's through people like these that we've gotten to shine, so please let them not be forgotten in time. For what person can walk down Granger Street and failed to be immersed in his major feat, or has made the descent down Grey Street's curve and failed to accept she's simply superb. From our cobbled roads to each sandstone brick, us Geordies love our grand home to bits, for that love is instilled when we're born, and it's a love that won't jilt or be worn to bits. It's on our sleeves. It's in our voices when we speak. We wouldn't choose to leave this town, even if that choice was looking bleak. And yes, we may be a rebellious lot. But I tell you what, our journey has been no walk in the park. But where the less sturdy may have gave up and fallen apart, not stuck around to plough on, but chosen to dart, we rolled our sleeves up. We carried on with hope in our hearts, knowing one day Newcastle would have rose from the clots, and rise we did. Through George Stephenson's brilliance, that Whaleham-born boy who brought his dream to billions. Now this man, this Geordie, broke the mould, turning Newcastle mined coal smoke to gold when his first locomotive awoke and rolled past those first onlookers. Young folk and old, now too little the achievements of this bloke is told. We need to relight his life and stoke the coals, because Stephenson was the father of the railways. And there was no place in the north safe from his trailblaze, while the rest carried coal through the roads at a snail's pace. Stephenson at his best, and with the wind in his sails, gazed out and realised the potential of his rocket. Luckily for us guys, he eventually unlocked it. See, with the rise of the loco came the fall of the horse, which, no surprise, meant we could really get coal to the coast, and now not by small dose, more like thousands of tons in the hulls of those boats, coal that was damp with northern sweat, as miners with small lamps and broken breaths would work their boots between timbers and braces, thick with soot in their fingers and in their faces. See, back then, there were no health and safety requirements. Swinging their picks in those dainty confinements, no permits to work or risk assessments. 9 o'clock lattes or fizzed refreshments, colliers would graft to haul up coal, as their wives back home would be sewing up holes in yesterday's pants that had slacked and widened, ripped from the hunt for that black diamond coal. Was king, and we reigned supreme after Stephenson's engines had gained steam, and for decades to the world we sustained this stream of fuel from our carved up tainted greens. Like sending coals to Newcastle was recognised and coined as a way to describe an exercise that was pointless, for what we did not know about mining out coal was probably not worth finding out at all. We picked, we shoveled those eerie tunnels with scraped, scratched knuckles and weary muscles. But if coal was king, our crown would fall. Soon those men working down those holes would realise that their days were numbered. Soon they would have to face the thunder, the strikes were coming, the pickets were made, and it was never going to be no ticker-tape parade. No, it was ugly. Way more than this poem could fathom. From home to tavern, folk would have an opinion on what they thought ought to happen, but ultimately this battle, almost bitter of broils, would leave those down in our capital to pick at the spoils. Coal was away, shrivelled to ashes, left in the wake of those civil clashes. Worst of all, our coal mines were only the first to fall. Soon that redundancy curse would roll down the banks of the Tyne to burst a hole straight through the hull of our grand swan hunter. And one only wonders how those old boys and youngsters felt being told that their jobs too were going under. After 150 years of trade, after 1,600 vessels were made, it was now their time to go. Dismantle the cranes and blow out another northern candle's flame. But it wasn't because of a decline in their energy. They'd built ships on the Tyne for well over a century, but a fatal lack in demand put their jobs into jeopardy. And by April '09, were left to stand as a memory. At least we could sink our sorrows, though, with the perfect drink to swallow those woes. I mean, let's not spoil a poem of this tough town's tale without mentioning our incredibly loyal love for brown ale. Now, some of us need more than a 4.7 hit. And for that reason, some say there's no point having it, but do not be fooled by what the label says, or soon you'll be ruled by unstable sways with each schooner yielding to those wasted stages, stumbling down Shields Road singing Blade and Races, which, by the way, let's face it, is a song more famous than Amazing Graces. Pardon me, I know part one's taken ages and you're probably sat there with aching faces thinking, I'm trying my best to stay awake in places, but I'm just trying to show you this place's greatness.
Wow, that was Paddy McCann. Just one question.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into too many questions. How can people find you online?
Facebook, Newcastle Poets.
Newcastle Poets.
Yeah.
Guys, you've heard it. Go on, find Paddy on Facebook. And have you got more stuff coming out?
Yes. Yeah.
So well, we'll look forward
Definitely
to hear more from you. Thanks for
Thank you
coming
very
on
much.
TEDx stage.
Thank you.